We're talking now, and the expression is used, the Talibanization of Pakistan. We've read recently about negotiations between the new government, the democratic government, and various tribal leaders that would withdraw Pakistani army forces or change the character of their involvement in these areas. And the question is, of course, other attempts under Musharraf have been tried for these kinds of negotiations that didn't work out very well. Essentially, those previous negotiations left the militants alone. Do you have a hope under the new circumstances that such negotiations would be different in character and produce a different outcome?
First, I'm an optimist, and I think one should always be hopeful. Secondly, also, if I may add, I think that this whole issue of Talibanization is so far, by and large, restricted to Northwest Frontier Province. So I'll not say that it's Talibanization of Pakistan. I would say Talibanization of the Northwest Frontier Province. You're absolutely right. The previous peace deals never worked because those efforts, those peace deals gave an opportunity to these militant groups, and there are now many. Taliban is one word. There is one, for instance, called Tehreek-e-Nifaz-e-Shariat Muhammadi, which means an organization for the enforcement of Islamic law. It was in Sawat. There's a person by the name of Mangal Bagh in Khyber Agency. There's another movement called Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan, which means movement for Taliban in Pakistan. So there are 10-15 groups. Also some Punjabis, the province where I belong, some of the Kashmiri militants who have gone into this hiding area. So this is a combination of these very many groups. What military had done in 2004 and 2006, they had these negotiations and deals with some tribes in South Waziristan, North Waziristan. And if I just may briefly add, there are about 60 major tribes, and those tribes have their internal conflicts also. There are 400 sub-tribes. So this is an area which is tribal, but you can say that at least 100 different groups with different histories and their own internal wars are fighting with each other. This time around, if there are peace talks, and there are well-meaning peace talks, why I think, or I would argue, they may work. One reason is that this is not a military officer in uniform with a gun talking to another militant and saying, okay, let's come to a compromise. Now we are talking about a political government elected with a secular political party, comparatively secular, I would say in that context, Awami National Party, which won elections in Northwest Frontier Province, which was a defeat for the mullah parties. The religious parties got massively defeated. So these comparatively secular, at least I would say they are not bigoted or fanatic in terms of their religious orientation. They are the ones who are talking to not necessarily Osama bin Laden or Mullah Umar of Taliban, but some of the local tribal leaders who are also religious. This may provide us a way out at least if the conditions are that these Pathan or Pashtun militants will not go across the border and attack the NATO forces or try to influence Afghanistan. They will stop suicide bombing. And then there can be a deal that, okay, Pakistan will not try to influence out of the way their political judicial system as a beginning. So that's why, because it will be an effort by Democrats. That's why I think it may work. Secondly, these politicians don't have a long history with them. The military and intelligence officials would say, okay, yes, 20 years ago you had done this great job, please don't tell this, and we will cover you and you cover us. The politicians, because they are representing the ordinary people, and there are certain polls which say that because of the suicide bombings, people are now getting really tired of this violence. So that's why the hopes of the people may result into a better arrangement, which ultimately may lead to conflict resolution.